do something a little bit different. This is not actually a use case. But for those of you who participated in last year's user meeting, you might remember that Pattern also then had provided us with some input. And the question I asked then and that I'm asking now is to tell us honestly about your experience about WindSim Accelerator. But first, let me just introduce, and you can see that, I'm not Rich, but Rich Osseboff is now our main contact in Pattern. Pattern Energy is a US-based owner-operator headquartered in Texas, but they have teams basically on several continents. They've got 35 installations with 6 gigawatts installed capacity and 25 gigawatts in the pipeline. They have, as I said, they have a team in the Americas, team in Europe, so they need to work together on projects from various locations. Rich has prepared these slides. He has worked with both solar and wind since 2006 and has experience from AWS, later bought by UL, BP, GE, and Finish before joining Pattern in 2016. And he was recently promoted to the Wind Insight team lead and is now the lead WindSim user. But there is a team of 5 analysts in altogether using WindSim. So in launching WindSim Accelerator, Pattern was one of 3 beta testers. And when we had the first input in the user meeting a year ago, we had just launched Accelerator. And Pattern was then, very actively part of the testing phase. And we used their input and feedback very much in order to kind of shape our work and create the roadmap going forward. So the first question is, what were you satisfied with? What worked well? So what he said was that, it's easy access. It works very well with the online interface. No issues in accessing the sites. And in most cases, but not in all, but in most cases, Accelerator has reduced the simulation time. For the remaining ones where it hasn't been reduced, there have been some specific cases that we have worked with the Pattern to resolve. But in most cases, the simulation time is indeed reduced. As I said, they have multiple users on several continents, and they are now working on one accelerator account at the same time, sometimes on the same project, but they're also running a number of parallel projects now, things that they couldn't do before. Next point is related to the project dashboard. What he means by that is basically the dashboard site in Accelerator. And this has been updated a few times. If you remember back to the demo we did earlier, you can see the credits, you can see information about the contract expiry, all of this. The shaping of the information on the dashboard is partly due to what the Pattern said. So that was one thing. Another thing was that we made the input parameters editable in the wind fields module on Accelerator, which was not the case in the first release, but it was requested by several customers. And then there's been various improvements with the completion tracking or completion monitoring, and you've seen Theo do a presentation or demo earlier that illustrates the next step in that. Pattern finds then the workless process simple and easier, and hopefully then when more modules pre and post processing are being added, it's going to be even easier, so you don't have to skip between software. Also, they are very happy that the IT group by the way, themselves said to me that they were very happy that they can get less involved in the software here, because the downloads and license codes and this type of thing and a support request, they don't have to be involved with at all anymore. So both the users and I think the IT team themselves were very happy with this. And then there was another question regarding simulations when they failed, which happens sometimes. Pattern experienced that it was, quite easy to identify what the issues was, and then fix it. Next question is what was less successful? And so the first point here that I mentioned was that only WinField module is currently available. So in other words, we need to use several platforms. We need to do pre-processing with one software. We need to then use Accelerator, or and then post-processing again on the WindSim desktop version, which can be a little bit laborious, which is true. But as you've seen in the Teo's demo here earlier, we're working on this. So pre-processing is in the planning to also move into Accelerator. And then, post-processing is coming down the line as well. So hopefully we will be able to address this. Now, there's next, few questions are a little bit more technical, so I have asked Theo to help me run through those.
Yes, so Pattern, they also mentioned that they had some problem with the project with some wind directions. That was we had an issue if you had 16 sectors, then you have like 0, 22.5, 45. This 22.5 is then rounded down to 22. But the issue was then if you go further, then we had like 0, 22, and then not 45 but 44, and then continuing 66, 88. So the further you got, the worse it got. So there was some bug around setting the sector width. So this has been fixed, has been deployed. I don't know when, more than a month ago at least, or some months ago. Yes. Issue with the maximum number of X and Y cells. I think there was actually an issue that they were running WindSim 11, the normal version that has the maximum limit of 600 times 600 times 60 cells, I think it was. But if you use the big model, then it has this 2000 times 2000 times 120. Yeah, so when they upgraded to the big model version, then it worked. Yeah, also we have sometimes had some issues if you run big projects in the Accelerator, that when we ask for the machine for on Azure from Microsoft, that we don't get the machine as we expect. So then we have to try several times, and sometimes even we didn't get it. So we did some improvements. It did better, but also we plan to make even bigger changes on our architecture, so it will be even better. Yeah, it will be probably released around summer to this new version. Yeah, it's basically we changed technology from ACI to AKS. Yeah, maybe a bit too technical, but it help us to choose better size machines, and so we have more control over the machines. Also, then we can also have these very larger machines than we could have before. Yes, there are some issues sometimes when downloading big projects. Like I said, the 10 million cells can be 10 gigabytes. Larger projects can be even bigger. Yeah, also they are in the US. our servers are in West Europe, so I'm not sure if that's an issue, but yeah, so downloading large amount of data can take time. So that's also why we want to do the pre and post processing in our data center in the cloud. So you don't have to download all the wind data, the results from the wind fields, and do it locally, but that you can also do it in the cloud. They have some licensing issues, at least at the time of this the PowerPoint was made. I think it's solved right now, at least. Maybe some of you have noticed as well, if you have the WindSim desktop, WindSim 11 or 12, if you have a license and if you move the license to or if you change something on your machine, like a new hard disk or something, or if you have a virtual machine and you do some changes, then you can get like a cloned error. So that's just the license security kicking in, saying, okay, you have done something with your machine. It's not the same machine anymore when you got the license. So yeah, we can easily fix it to clear the clone and give a new license. Yeah.
Great.
So I think there was more on the next
Thank
slide.
you,
Yeah.
Theo. The last slide here basically sums it up. This is the final question, so what would you like to see going forward? And it's another way of stating what we already touched a little bit about, expanding the capabilities for larger projects, which, without going into details, as Theo explained, the upcoming AKS change is going to resolve that. The other one is adding additional module support and download capabilities. Yeah, so again, this is similar to what was said earlier, with further modules in the cloud. Some of these issues will actually just disappear because everything is happening in the cloud. And so it's correct that what Rich is saying here, that this is going to be addressed in coming releases. And the last one is indeed the last point that we spoke about. No more licensing issues when the pre-processing moves to the cloud as well, and the need for desktop software is being more and more reduced or even eliminated. So those issues are going to disappear. So I think what you can see from this is very transparent. We're on a journey here. We started, as I mentioned earlier, a year ago with the launch of WindSim Accelerator, and we're building stone by stone, brick by brick. So I'm encouraging everybody, all the users of Accelerator, to just continue to give us feedback, because as I hope you see, we do use that actively for bug fixes, for adding functionality, for building new modules, etc. So this is very much valued. And I think that's it. We're not closing yet,
Okay.
but
You see.